Welcome to Meaningful Mornings. Our community is in the final 18 days of our courses, our year-long courses. And so in this phase, our seekers are expressing their gratitude. I'd shared that about parenting culture, which is a 32-week course. Yesterday, a seeker in our Upanishad course expressed her gratitude. This is a 64-week course. And she was sharing that the Upanishad course, her relationship with Vedanta, prepared her for the tough time she experienced. Her husband, who's just a few years older than me, had passed away. And she was sharing that if it weren't for the Upanishad course, if it weren't for Vedanta, that she wouldn't have been able to survive this tough time. I feel she's not just survived, but she's thriving. Many of you got to listen to her yesterday. And so as she was sharing, I followed up by expressing, in the Ramayana, Sri Lakshmana asks Sri Rama some question, and Sri Rama first reminds Sri Lakshmana to have faith in different directions. And then he answers those questions. And the reason why he's sharing this with Sri Lakshmana is because he's prepping him for the tough time that's about to happen. Right after what is known as Sri Rama Gita, then Bhagavati Sita is abducted. For all of us, we've gone through tough times, we're going through tough times, we will go through tough times. Vedanta, our Upanishad course, Meaningful Mornings, is preparing us for this. And nothing can prepare you for the tough time of a loss of such a close family member, her husband passing away, Bhagavati Sita being abducted, then your relationship with the trust triangle, your relationship with yourself. And that's why yesterday I casually shared that our community is a form of therapy. Politely, our community is much more. In the Upanishad, there's a beautiful Shanti mantra, a prayer, and a portion of this line is Tat Atmani Nirate Ya Upanishatsu Dharmaha, which means the qualities that are needed to feel infinity, te mai santu, may those reside in me. May I be established in these qualities. Chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita is sharing the same. If Prince Arjuna wants to be Sri Krishna, if Tvam is to asi tat, one has to be virtuous, to be joyous. That was shared in a less definitive manner in chapter 12, and now a more definitive manner in chapter 13. This starts in verse 7. Amanitvam madambhitvam ahimsa kshantirarjavam acharyopasanam shaucham steryam atma vinigraha. Acharya upasanam, we've shortened this to upasana. In English, dedication. Whatever you are dedicated to, you develop into that. Hence the need for the trust triangle, specifically a guide for one to enter and rise in this trust triangle. Shaucha, in English, diligence. More practically, it is to be organized. You will know that you're organized if you never miss satsanga, you never miss seva, you never miss sadhana. Those who are organized don't miss out on what's important. Steria, in English, this is commitment. How do you know that you're committed? You become more positive. Where there's non-commitment, we have the option to be negative, complain, criticize, cry, and so on. And Atma Vinigraha, we've shortened to Vinigraha, in English, direction. I was recently interacting with a young seeker who was going through a breakup. And I was sharing with him that in the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna shares, sadness is all right, but grief is not. In grief, you stop being responsible. In sadness, this is natural, but you continue with your responsibilities. That is a practice in direction that you never drift from your responsibilities. Verse 8, Indriyartheshu vairagyam anahankara evacha janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanudarshanam. The 10th value is Indriyartheshu vairagyam, which we've shortened to vairagya, which in English means contentment. Pujya Swami Tejomayananda shared a lot about this value. Here are some further insights. If you appreciate what you have, I'd mentioned that as a practice in contentment, then everything that comes into your life you touch, but you don't hold on to it. Those who are appreciative are not possessive. And I find many grihastas like myself, one who has a larger family, who is not living in an ashram, we don't know how to practice vairagya. We give grihastas a bad name. Grihastas who don't practice contentment are compared to a kurma. Tell me in the chat, what does kurma mean? And I'm not saying a food, okay? I never talk about food. Yes, a tortoise or a turtle. Where is a turtle or a tortoise's home? On its back. It's a symbol of being possessive. If one practices vairagya, then one is not preoccupied with what they have. And another form of preoccupation is to be distracted. I find with our children, when they get a new toy or treat, they're preoccupied with that, so they're distracted from putting their socks on and being on time for the assembly. And so, if you find that you're a distracted personality, practice vairagya. Next, anahankara. This is the 11th value. In English, surrender. First surrender what you're identified with, then surrender the identifier. More practically, the one who's identified with tends to be demanding, controlling. But if you start to realize you're not the manager of life, you're not the original parent, you become more at ease. You surrender the identifier. Janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha dosha anudarshanam, which we've simplified to anudarshana. The 12th value is reflectiveness. Reflectiveness. I'm reading two great portions of Pujya Swami Chinmayananda's commentary about this. Unless a seeker is constantly conscious of the evil, of the pain in their present stage of existence, they will not discover the necessary spiritual urge, intellectual dynamism, emotional enthusiasm, or physical courage to seek, to fight for, to win, and to possess the divine fields of perfection. In all these stages of our metamorphosis, to constantly recognize pain is to feel an impatience with it. This sense of revolt against pain is the fuel that drives the seekers faster and faster to seek the peaks of perfection. When I was in Pittsburgh this past weekend, I was sharing with them that when Vivek comes to speak in Pittsburgh, whenever Chinmaya Mission organizes a workshop or a discourse series, there will never be as many people there as at a cultural program or a Mandir's puja. And the factual reason for that, when you go to a cultural program, when you go to a Mandir's puja, you're not asked to change. When you come to a workshop, when you're part of Meaningful Mornings, whose responsibility is it to practice these values? Mine? It is mine for me, but you for yourself. Nobody wants to be told what to do, and nobody wants to think that, am I unhappy? Am I going to die? But in Meaningful Mornings with Vedanta, you are challenged. And those who accept this challenge, like we say that so casually, challenge accepted. Like how the Los Angeles Lakers beat the Golden State Warriors last night and will win the NBA series. You accept your challenge, then you start to practice. That's what reflectiveness is. We continue to verse 9. 3 more values come up. Asaktir anabhishvangaha putradara grahadishu nityam cha samachittatvam ishtanishtopapatishu. Joy. The 13th value is asakti. In English, independence. All of these values are amazing. This is a most practical value. Independence. Pujaswami Tejomayananda shared, we all have a general attachment to what is in our life. We're attached to parking spaces. We're attached to our own opinions. So how do you come out of a general attachment? Through specific detachment. And here is where I hope you've recognized I've tried so hard to encourage us to give that which is easiest, which is resources. If you trade in this, then you will give your time. If you trade in this, then you will give your effort. But if you don't give your resources, you'll never give your time and effort. That general attachment will continue. Just think of the extension. When you start to give your resources, what do you eventually start to practice? Giving up your name. That when I give, I'm the beneficiary. Why should my name be attached to this? Next, anabhishvangaha, towards putra dara graha adi. Anabhishvanga means obsession. For us, it is where we trick ourselves that we love when we're actually attached, obsessed, infatuated, whatever word you want to use, that excessive emotion towards putra. That's the younger generation. Dara, the same generation. Graha, all that is an article. So beings that are younger than us, beings the same age as us, and then the article surrounding this, adi means etc. That means the circumstances too. To be obsessive about vacations, to be obsessive about things should go this way. Anabhishwanga means not to be obsessive. And so our English translation is objectivity. Objectivity. To not trick ourselves into thinking this is love. The more objective you are, the more you do love, because it's not about you. In our Upanishad course I'd shared, you start off with objectivity, but then that should rise to being an observer. Then you love even more. If I identify as the observer, then I know you and I are much closer than our names and forms. And 15, nityam, which means comprehensively, samachittattvam, for the mind to be constantly balanced, ishta nishto papattishu, when you get what you like, and when you get what you don't like. So distilling this to sama. 14 is anabhishwanga, that is objectivity. 15 is sama, which is to be balanced. The mind to be balanced with what you like, what you dislike. A way to practice this, and then I'll give you much more tomorrow. Swami Tejamayana shared a lot about this also. We've already covered the word vairagya, which means to be content, but another form of this is viraga, which means to be without likes, but practically it means to live, not to be liked. So much of what we do is for people to like us. Then what happens? Our mind is never balanced. Live in the right way. Don't live in a way that your security is dependent on people liking you. You will dislike yourself then. 15 values covered, 5 more to go. This is what knowledge is. From inspiration to application, your application yesterday was to relive a painful experience every hour. How many of you tried this? I hope this is meaningful for you. The implication of this application is that time moves forward, life moves forward. Have you moved forward? Your application for this morning is, we have a podcast channel called Live Vedanta. In this podcast channel, we've released a podcast on parenting culture. And I've shared with you that this section of Bhagavad Gita is what I've used for parenting culture. I want you to listen to the first episode so you have a more beautiful understanding of how these values apply to relationships. Shanti, Shanti, Shantihi. Be safe, be sound, be serene, be joy.